a message in my nose that I'm never gonna send.
Hi, I'm Liselle and welcome back to my channel where I talk about all things writing, traditional publishing, and a little bit of reading. And Happy New Year! You're going to be watching this in February, so I probably said Happy New Year so many times before, but it's still fresh in the new year for me for this January. But yeah, I'm really excited, and I started off the year with a bit of a fortunate mistake. Long story short, I thought my deadline was January 2nd for the second Mastery Monster book. It was actually February 1st. So the way that Americans write out dates is different than the way that Canadians write out dates, and I made a bit of a switcheroo in my mind. So I actually handed in my manuscript early, but the benefit of that is that my editor said that she is not going to be getting notes back to me. She's not going to get to reading the book until like the end of January, beginning of February, which means I have the entirety of January off from that project, and so I can focus on SlugBook. And I have finally a coherent pitch for you for this book. I feel like I've just been like talking about it in the most like unhinged way that gives you no real idea of what this book is about. But eventually, it's essentially hashtag SlugBook. This is an adult horror project that I'm going to be working on, and what it essentially is it's an alternate world in which slugs are a very important commodity and very popular, and the female main character, her job is to get rid of them, and so her job is kind of like, yeah, in conflict with what is popular. And when one of her jobs goes wrong, she ends up having to join together with a media personality to hunt down a serial killer. And yeah, so that is what the book is about. And it is theme-wise very much about consumption. So it's about consumption of not only things like media, but about, you know, other things like objects, the commodification of certain things, and also consumption of food. There's going to be some sort of discussion about disordered eating in there, but also generally about like overconsumption, and also the sort of like politics around the morality of consumption and how people decide which sort of consumption they consider to be ethical or moral, which sorts of consumption they consider to not be, how those sorts of things are decided and popularized in the world, and also how the commodities, the things being consumed, are themselves affected. So kind of the impact on those things, the impact on slugs, but also the impact on people, and how that all comes together. So that is essentially what the book is going to be about, and I've decided to kind of push myself as an author and do something different with how I write this book. So I really do, I have a tried and true process for how I write books. This is something I've been developing over time. I have so many videos on this channel exactly about this process, and it is very, very streamlined, and I've decided to break it. And this is just for the purposes of kind of like, I guess, sort of forcing myself to evolve in a certain way. I just feel like I want to kind of push myself to do something a little bit different. I think especially after struggling with the couples retreat on submission, the way that my mind went, I started kind of thinking of like, should I be doing something, I don't know, like more mainstream or more acceptable, or like, should I be doing this like XX and X way because that's what this person might want. And I feel like doing this in a different way feels like a radical shift from that mindset for me, because I didn't like that mindset. Like I've always kind of just like written what I wanted, and it was just like a feeling of kind of like desperation and the pain of kind of like feeling failure and just kind of being like, I don't know, should I just do what somebody else wants? And I feel like doing a different process is me kind of saying, no, I'm not gonna do that. And so yeah, I don't know, just like pushing myself to do something new. And so what I've decided, so the whole of this month, what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna be writing 1,000-word vignettes. And so my idea is to get about like 35 of these, 35, 37, I don't know, something around that number. And then once I have all those vignettes, just like completely out of order vignettes from that world, I can kind of look at them, and from there I'll go into my kind of regular process in that I will plot the book from there with the vignettes that I have, and I will add structure to that piece of the pie, but also that I'll allow myself to kind of potentially also just have a different structure, because that isn't how it was put together in the first place, and kind of allowing myself to do something a little bit different plotting wise. So not really sticking to like a save the cat sort of situation, like trying to do something a little bit different, and just like really pushing myself as an author to I guess to reinvent myself in a certain way, to try something different, to explore a different mode of storytelling. And I think this is a good time for it. And especially as I'm going to be doing this in bits and pieces of like when I am not working on mastery books. And so that's kind of my plan for it. And I'm really excited about doing something different, especially because this book itself, concept wise, is already like weird that it feels like it just makes sense to do this a little bit in a different way. So I'm excited about that. And so that's what I'm going to be working on this month. I also have a research trip to Kingston that I'm going to be doing for mastery stuff. At the end of the month, I'm going to be going to the Ontario Library Conference in Toronto. So it's a bit of a packed month, but I'm excited and I'm invigorated and I'm looking forward to what comes next. And now I'm going to do a big book haul of books that I bought when I was in Toronto on holidays. So if you don't care to watch the book haul, you can just skip to the next thing. But if you do want to watch the book haul, I will be starting it now. I'll probably just separate just this section out because I suspect it's going to be a bit of a, I don't know, I'm going to try and be kind of quick with it. But yeah, so let's just get straight into that book haul. So first I got Cherish Farrah by Bethany C. Morrow. I like to call this Cherish Farrah. I know that's not how it's said, it's Farrah probably, but I don't know. I like mistakenly said Farrah and then I was really attached to it. So this is Bethany C. Morrow's adult horror that was put out, I don't know, I feel like a couple of years ago, but I read it on audio and I really, really loved it, and I was just like getting around to actually getting a physical copy of it, and so I have it now. How can I describe it? It's about two girls that have a bit of a dysfunctional relationship with each other. It's social horror. It's got some really cool gory bits to it, and I think that's all I will say about that one. So I got that, and I got Bad Cree by Jessica Johns. I've been meaning to pick this one up forever. I did watch someone on BookTube like talking about it a little bit at some point earlier this week, and they said it like has like, it talks about the Wendigo and things like that a little bit more, but as a quick summary, it says a haunting debut where dreams, family, and spirits collide, and it's about a Cree woman who lives in Vancouver, a Cree millennial, which is exciting. I too am a millennial, so I love those perspectives. But yeah, so I'm really, really looking forward to reading this horror, and it's adult. And then I got Homebody by Theo Parish, and this is a graphic memoir about an author sharing their experiences of being non-binary. Oh my gosh. I believe it says, in their comics debut, Theo Parish masterfully weaves an intimate and defiantly hopeful memoir about the journey one non-binary person takes to find a home within themselves. So I've been meaning to pick this up also forever. And so I'm really excited to read this. I love a graphic memoir. I love it. I love a graphic memoir so much. So really excited about that one. And I'm not sure whether it's classified as adult or young adult. So I will not say, oh no, it says YA on the back. It is YA. So there you go. And I got American Rapture by CJ Leede. I read in 2024, I read Mayfly, and I loved it. I loved it. I thought it was so good. And so I was really excited about reading American Rapture, and people seem to be liking this one even more. So I'm really, really excited. I don't really know anything about it except for something religious trauma question mark. But I saw it with CJ Leede and I was like, I'm gonna pick it up. So I just picked it up right away, and it's an adult horror. And then I got Blankets by Craig Thompson. I believe this is like an adult romance question mark, coming of age something. I saw this at a bookstore like ages ago, and then we happened to be in a thrift store and I saw that they had a copy, and I was like, it was so funny. I was in the thrift store, I was like, how much for this? And she was like, $15, and I was like, sold. So I bought it there, and I'm really excited for it. I love a chunky graphic novel. I also think the art is really cool and pretty, so I'm looking forward to reading this one. Blankets. Let me see if I can give you a bit of a more coherent summary. It's about family and first love. So there you go. And then I got a copy of Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay. I read this on audio and I absolutely loved it. It was one of my favorites of 2024. And so I basically was just like, I need a physical copy of this. Also because it's like, it has like scripts format in it. I would love to reread it physically and see all the scripts and stuff like that. Just because I read it like audio wise. But it's about basically a group, they make this horror movie and it becomes this sort of like cult classic, and the main character is like talking about like the movie, like the filming of the movie, but also his experience in the present, and you're kind of unfolding, you're learning about what exactly happened on this set, and what it is that seems to have kind of followed the cast members even after filming. And yeah, I just thought it was fantastic. So I got myself my little copy and I love it so much. And then I got Crush by Tegan and Sara and Tillie Walden. I read the first graphic novel in this series, Junior High by them, and I loved it. I thought it was so good. And I mean, I like Tegan and Sara. And yeah, it's just like, it's exciting that they have this like graphic novel of like, I think it's like middle grade. I don't know if this one is now YA. I think they're both still middle grade. Oh no, this one says it's YA. So this one's YA. The first one was more middle grade. YA on the cusp, I guess, because it's junior high. But yeah, it's about their experience growing up and like getting into music and friends and like finding themselves. And yeah, I mean, I'm just a fan of Tegan and Sara, you know, Canadian sister duo. And yeah, I also watched a documentary about I can't remember what it's called, but it was about like someone catfishing, like pretending to be Tegan and Quin for like a very, very long period of time, and then like talking about that. It was wild. It was wild. I just like saw there was a documentary about Tegan and Sara and I was like, oh yeah, I'll check in this, and then it was like this catfishing thing. Man. Anyway, this edition of the graphic novel I believe is about like first crushes, that sort of thing. Yeah. It says they may have survived 7th grade, but their junior high jams are just beginning. So yeah, and I recommend Junior High as well. I really liked it and I'm really looking forward to this one. And then I got a copy of Bunny by Mona Awad. This is another one that I read on audio and absolutely loved. I do really want to reread it because I feel like it's this first book. I feel like it's the sort of book where you have to read a second time to really like grasp everything that's happening. But I loved this so much. It is like a dark academia about a girl and this group of girls in her creative writing class who call themselves Bunny, and her kind of both envying and despising them in a sort of almost equal measure, and then she kind of becomes part of their group and things kind of kick off from there. Yeah, I'm sure you've probably heard a million people talk about this book at this point, but I just loved it. I thought it was so good. I've made it a priority to read Rouge by Mona Awad this year because I love this so much and I want to read more of her works. But yeah, just absolutely fantastic. And I got I Might Be in Trouble by Daniel Aleman. I am so excited about this. Daniel is actually part of our little Toronto writers group, and I'm just like super looking forward to this. He also has some YA contemporary that he's written, Indivisible and Brighter Than the Sun, and this is his adult debut, and it's about like an author that has this like one night stand, and then the guy ends up dead, and he and his literary agent end up having to like hide the body and stuff. I'm just like super looking forward to reading this one. I think it's gonna be so good, and so of course I had to pick up a copy to read and also to support Daniel. So yeah, very excited about this one too. And I got Jamaica Ginger and Other Concoctions by Nalo Hopkinson. Nalo Hopkinson is an author that like is very very big as a like Canadian like Caribbean author, and so I've really enjoyed the works from her that I've read so far, and so I really wanted to, I just like saw this in the bookstore and I was like, ooh, I want to like read more, and so I'm looking forward to reading this collection of short stories. And I found that like in the last little bit that I've been struggling with like anthologies with all different authors, but I find that anthologies by one author have been hitting really well for me, and so I've also been like very interested in like reading more like short story collections, all from one author, though of course anthologies with all different authors is great too, but I really like just like getting stuck into a collection that is like the voice of one author, so I'm really looking forward to reading this one. And then I got It Waits in the Forest by Sara Doss. I actually blurbed this one. It's a YA. It's like a mix of contemporary fantasy, horror, and thriller. I thought it was really cool. It's about this girl who is kind of like infamous on this Caribbean island, this small Caribbean island, for being like a psychic, but also like we're kind of being like maybe a fake, and she's kind of in this sort of limbo period. She had these plans to kind of leave the island with her boyfriend, but then that doesn't work out, and then her mom is sick and she feels very like tethered to this place where she is also ostracized because of something that happened with her parents, and it's just like it has such great atmosphere. It's got such a like a good creepy unsettling atmosphere. It's got this like really interesting like unfolding mystery, and that's why I'm trying not to say too much because I don't want to like accidentally spoil things, but I feel like if you're looking for like a Caribbean like contemporary fantasy thriller horror, like I feel like this is definitely the one for you, and yeah, it's just so good. It's so gripping, and it's got really beautiful prose. I highly recommend this one, so I got my own copy. Then I got Compound Fracture by Andrew Joseph White. I actually already have a copy of this. I have the Illumicrate special editions of Compound Fracture, but I also wanted the original cover because I also really like this cover, and also I already have all of his other books with their original covers, so I also wanted those. Anyway, so that's how I actually already have a copy of this. This is Andrew Joseph White's third book. I've loved his other books, and so I just like automatically picked it up. I know vaguely that it is about a trans teen, and I think it's about Appalachia, and that's all I know, and that was enough for me. I just needed to know that it was one of his books, and I picked it up. Yeah, auto by author at this point, and so I'm super looking forward to reading this one, which I still haven't yet. I really need to get to it. I'm kind of behind on my new releases, so I hope to get to it soon. And then I got The Guy She Was Interested In Wasn't a Guy at All by Sumiko Arai. This is a manga. I just heard about this once and it was enough for me. It was basically like this girl, and she's in the store and she has a crush on a guy, and he's not a guy, he's a girl, and then things kick off from there. I feel like I was led to believe it's sapphic, and that was enough for me, and I picked up my copy. Also, I feel like the art looks really nice, and like inside it's like this sort of thing where it's like it's got the limited color palette with black and white, but also green, and I love that. I love those sorts of limited color palettes where it's like one bold color, along with like the grayscale. I really like that style. So yeah, also looking forward to that one. And finally, last but not least, I got Heavenly Tyrant by Shira and Jay Zhao. I got the one from Back of Phoenix Books that like comes with the exclusive art prints slash layovers. I don't know, page layovers? I don't know. Anyway, I got the exclusive one. It was good. It worked out because I could pre-order from them and I could pick up when I was in Toronto for the holidays. So that worked out really, really well. Super excited for this one. I absolutely loved Iron Widow. I cannot wait for this conclusion. And yeah, I'm just really excited to get into it. I'm tempted to reread Iron Widow and then read Heavenly Tyrant. So I might do that. And maybe I'll listen to the audio because I originally read Iron Widow physically, so it might be fun to listen to the audio, which I've never heard, and do that, and then like read this one. I don't know, probably physically. I like reading it physically. I don't know. We'll see what I'm in the mood for. Sometimes I struggle with physical reading, but anyway, that was my long book haul. So I like to put them in vlogs because I just don't feel like they're kind of like a standalone video thing that I would do on my channel. But I'm also aware that they take a long time. So I try and like time separate them out so that if this isn't your thing, you can just kind of skip over it. But anyway, very excited with those books. And yeah, I feel like it's a good move to kind of save up and wait until I'm in Toronto and like can go to indies and stuff like that. But I might start ordering from some indies online because I feel like I thought the shipping would be like a ton, but the shipping actually isn't that bad. It's like $5 or $10. And so I might just like do that and just buy in kind of bulk and start doing things like that. But anyway, that's it for this haul, and I will see you when I've actually done some writing.
Saying I'm sorry. I guess you never really know what somebody's gonna do when they get lonely. You found somebody better than me to take care of your insecurities. You did it all while leaving me in the dark. I try so hard to be what you need. If you're into the finer things, well, maybe we should let this fall apart. 'Cause I feel so stupid for falling for you, for falling for you. Should've listened to my...
We are heading out to Kingston tomorrow, and so I thought I'd do my first little update before we go so that I can kind of focus in on telling you about like the SlugBook progress stuff, because I feel like when I get back from Kingston, I'm gonna want to talk about all the Kingston / A Master of Monsters research type things, so I want to like have some time to chat about this. So I am about 11,000 words into 40,000. So I decided that I'm going to do 40 vignettes, or like 40,000 words of vignettes. Some of the like sizes of them have changed a little bit, and I'm going to talk about that. But most of them are like 1,000 words. And so at this point, I feel like I've done well. I've established the main character, who is Springer, and I've established the secondary character, who is Gem, like a gemstone. Gem. It's basically a stage name. She's like an influencer type person, content creator. And so I've established kind of those two, which is good. And I've been writing scenes from them. Today, actually, I sat down and kind of like wrote out some specific character stuff, because I feel like I've kind of had enough time to figure out what their kind of like loose journeys are. Usually I catalog this like very specifically, but I've kind of decided that I have like a loose understanding of kind of what sort of people they are. I think what I don't have yet is kind of like a backstory thing, but I'm just gonna let that come out in the writing. But I have that idea, and I feel like I have a stronger sense of plot now. I knew there was going to be like a team up to find a serial killer sort of thing, and so essentially Jem is kind of the only survivor of this serial killer who has not yet been caught. And originally I was going to have kind of like them teaming up to go after the serial killer, but then that kind of made it feel like very detective fiction-y, and I was like, that's not really the vibe that I'm going for. And so then what I decided to do is to make it so the serial killer is like actively trying to finish the job, actively trying to get a hold of Jem and kind of finish those things. And so because of the specific job that Springer has, they're kind of like, Jem needs Springer in order to help find this person, and because of her sort of feelings of what she wants to do, this is not something in which she wants the police to be involved. It kind of has to be a sort of amateur sleuth situation, and I like that, and I like that better because that feels a lot more horror to have someone actively like coming after them than just them kind of like passively searching for someone, and like there's not really anything, they're just kind of searching for someone, and so I feel like that's a much better plot wise thing. So I have that. I also did think of today, I haven't written it down yet, but I thought of a good like main character sort of twist reveal thing, because so far I had put something in kind of willy-nilly, that she doesn't let people come to her apartment. And so I was like, what's going on in the apartment? And I was thinking about that a little bit more. But otherwise, I'm having a great time with this process. I'm really enjoying it. I do think it's fun to be able to write out of order like this and just kind of like write what I feel like writing in the day. I feel like it's a lot easier to make myself motivated to sit down and write, because I'm like, oh, this is just like something I'm interested in writing today. There's nothing that I kind of like have to write, quote unquote. So that's really nice. Today, I also on the fly started adding kind of like some second POVs. I thought that I wanted to do a couple other POVs just so you can kind of see how the slug thing is from different people and like different applications and how different people are using it, that sort of thing. Because yeah, I mean, I was like, how to explain? Because the slug is the thing that's popular among people. Many different people are interacting with them in very different ways. And I wanted the reader to be able to get a taste of all the different ways that people are using them, outside of the main characters. And so I wasn't sure. Originally I thought maybe I would do like little like social media transcripts, and then I decided what I wanted to do instead is to do these like shorter vignettes. So these are like 500 to 600 words essentially, of just like a different point of view, from someone who is like tangentially involved in the plot. So for example, I had like Springer and Jem were kind of like sneaking into a house where a child's birthday party is happening, and so the little like shorter snapshot vignette that I did was from the POV of one of the guests at the birthday party. So that sort of thing. So they're like kind of tangentially involved in what's happening, but it's not the sort of thing where I'm going to give that character like a whole character arc or anything like that. Like that's not what it is. It's basically just kind of like being able to give little insights into all the different ways that people are using the slug, so you kind of get those sorts of feels of like, yeah, different perspectives throughout the city essentially. So I did a couple of those and I like those, and so I'm hoping I can do kind of a few more of those, and those I'm doing from third person point of view, and then the two POVs I think I'm going to do from first person point of view for both of them. Originally I was going to do third for everyone but Springer, but then I decided that I can do first for both of them. I think the only thing I have to like now that I've kind of ironed out who they are as characters a little bit more, I think I can start doing better at differentiating their voice, so that it's a little bit more sharp when you kind of see the swap. I'll probably put headers that say like Springer and Gem. I don't know. Sometimes I don't like doing that. Sometimes I don't like doing the headers because it feels like, and I get why people do it when you do like first person, it's so that people can like understand whose perspective you're in. But honestly, like a big part of me feels like I shouldn't need to tell you. And that in fact, if I have to tell you, like perhaps I'm not doing a good job at it. And so I'm kind of, yeah, I feel some reluctance in that sense. So I don't know. We'll see how I feel about it. At the end of the day. Yeah, so that's where I'm at. But yeah, I'm really pleased with the prose specifically. I really do feel like I'm flexing writing muscles and getting that all in, so I'm happy about that. I just really want to like add in a little bit more. I've been trying to in my last few vignettes to like add in more like horror scenes to make sure that I'm getting enough of those in, because I feel like the first few vignettes I did were very like literary and I kind of want to make sure that I'm getting in enough vignettes for like actual like horror stuff is happening, that it like, yeah, that it continues to feel like very firmly grounded horror. And I know that like a book is not like horror stuff is happening every 2 seconds. That's not really how it is. But I think it makes me feel better to like be getting those in the vignettes. But yeah, I'm overall very pleased with how SlugBook is proceeding, and looking forward to continuing with that. And I do believe that I will be able to get done the 40,000 words or the 40 vignettes or whatever by the end of the month, as long as I continue kind of like working every weekday, which means I'll probably have to do some while I'm traveling. But I'm willing to do it to make sure I get enough time to kind of put a pause from that, especially because my editor said that she is going to be getting back to me kind of in that first week of February with those Master Monsters Book 2 edits, and so I want to make sure that I'm not going to get cut off from the flow of working on it, and I'm going to have like extra time. So yeah, so if I finish at the end of the month, that'll give me like, I don't know, like an extra week to kind of like chill, and then I could get into my next writing thing. But yeah, so that's it for now, and I will see you again in Kingston.
Did it all while leaving me in the dark. I try so hard to be what you need. If you're into the finer things, well, maybe we should let this fall apart. 'Cause I feel so stupid for falling for you, for falling for you. I should've listened to my friends when they told me not to. Said you're nothing but a one-night stand, trip to Candyland. If you get too close, then you might understand. But now my heart's on my sleeve and I'm in too deep. But you're not thinking twice about me. I wrote a message in my notes that I'm never gonna send to you, saying how I feel if you only knew. Wrote down every old cliche, a four-letter word in 100 ways, and reality hit me in the face. 'Cause I feel so stupid for falling for you, for falling for you. I should've listened to my friends when they told me not to. Said you're nothing but a one-night stand, trip to Candyland. If you get too close, then you might understand. But now my heart's on my sleeve and I'm in too deep. But you're not thinking twice about me. What if it goes wrong? What if it goes right? What if these things I'm saying make you change your mind? I've never been one to cry. I can't stop the tears raining down from my eyes. No, 'cause I feel so stupid for falling for you. my sleep and I'm in too deep, but you're not thinking twice about me.
I'm back from the research trip in Kingston, which went really well. Very, very helpful for me. I basically, so because I had already written my draft, I was basically kind of checking in on locations that I had decided on based on kind of like looking around on Google Maps and like my memory and that sort of thing, and wrote it on that basis. And so the research trip is really to like double check the places that I checked in on, and that sort of thing. And so I did do that, which was very, very good. I did it. It's always helpful to do these things because, for example, one of the settings was like a park, and looking online, it looked like the park was kind of like big enough, because what I'm thinking about is I need these places to be able to hold like 6 foot, 8 foot tall monsters without like drawing a huge crowd of people. And so that's kind of what I was working with. And one of the parks I put in looked like it would do that. We went to the park, absolutely could not handle that. It would have been ridiculous. It was like a suburban park. It was the shortest walk ever. We like took our dog on a walk around just to like look at the grounds and that sort of thing. It was like a 10-minute walk. We circled around this thing. I was like, oh, this will not work. This will not work at all. So I'm going to switch that location to a different one because now I know that won't work. And then I went on campus, and like some things I just like had like changed slightly, or I had misremembered them. So when I was in like, there's like a recreational center. In my day it was called the Queen Center, but now I think everybody calls it the Arc, which is what I put it down as because I was watching like TikToks and stuff from people that go to Queens, and they were calling it the Arc. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll call it the Arc because that seems like what people are calling it now. And so, and you might be thinking, Liselle, maybe you should like interview a current student. I do not. You have to understand, I'm a very introverted person, and the idea of doing that is horrible and terrifying. And yeah, even to like figure out the logistics of like how to find someone to get someone on board like that, it just, yeah, not happening. So I go in person, I do my research thing, I watch like TikToks and stuff. Anyway, but yeah, so I went there, and 2 of the restaurants had changed that were there. They had like changed slightly. And so I had kind of like taken note of that. And then I went to the library, which like a lot of stuff happens in the library, and it was very different from what I remembered. I will say it is under construction. So many things were under construction. Oh my gosh, so many things were under construction. But it was under construction, and so it did look a little bit different because of that. But also like a lot of stuff was just different. Like I remember from when I was a student, I remember having to like scan in with my student ID. Like I couldn't just walk in. I had to like scan it in to get inside. That's what I remember. Maybe it's different, but anyway, there was none of that. And like the entrance just kind of looked a little bit different. I also had a different memory of what the study rooms look like. Like in my head, they were like all glass, and maybe they're like that on different levels. I only went to like certain levels. But yeah, I just remember them differently. And so that's the point of this. And then I also had to go to one of the historical sites. It's called Fort Henry. And that was also like not how it had looked on internet pictures. Like it had looked different, and there were just like subtleties that you couldn't see from like a Google Maps sort of thing. And it was just like there were just like different things in person. Like in person I could see that there was a little moat around the whole thing, which I couldn't see. And we're also planning to go back to Kingston in May because Fort Henry, it was off season when we went, but I wanted to go during January because that's the time that the book is taking place, and so I wanted to be able to go there during that time and like feel the weather and the atmosphere and that sort of thing. But yeah, so we want to go back in May when the off season is on so that I'm able to do a tour around it. So that will be really helpful, and I can probably like pre-scope out some places for book 3 as well, and kind of like pre-plan some about like which kind of locations I might use for book 3 so I can check in on those too. So that's kind of the general plan. But overall, yes, it was really, really good. It was really helpful. Just to like, yeah, get a lay of the land. I also did do a bit of writing, a bit of working on SlugBook while I was there, which was, yeah, it was so kind of like nostalgic and weird because one day, because I had gone to the campus to scope out things on campus, and so I was in the library, and so I was working on the SlugBook in the library, and I was like, oh, this is kind of like weird and nostalgic. I actually usually didn't go to the library when I was a student. I just wanted to be in my own space and study there because I'm a homebody, and so that's just the way I am. But yeah, it was kind of interesting and like weird, and I like had my little backpack and I was like, I'm not one of those, I'm not the sort of millennial where I'm like, I don't at all look my age. I do think I look my age, but I think in the context of me being meshed in with students and like wearing a backpack and stuff, I'm sure I looked like a student. But yeah, no, outside of that context, I do think I look like I'm in my 30s. But anyway, so it was just like, it was so interesting, so weird. But yeah, I've continued doing some SlugBook stuff. I did miss some days just because of like traveling and that sort of thing, but I'm not really getting too down on myself about it. I'm like, if I can write a day, then I can write a day. And so I'm kind of taking it on that more casual sort of feeling, instead of being like really regimented with myself, because it's hard when you're like traveling and moving around and driving and stuff like that to always be able to get in like those very dedicated writing days. So it was mostly like days when we were gonna be in the car for like several hours where I was like, yeah, I can't write in this condition. But when we were like in Kingston's like sat proper, then I could always do it because I just like wake up early in the morning and whatnot. But anyway, I've been working on it. I still don't feel like I have like a super strong handle on plot, but that's okay. But I do feel like I have a much better handle on character. I feel like I'm starting to really understand kind of the psyche of the main character and the sort of person that she is, and how that kind of goes together with the themes that I want to do for the book about consumerism and like the morality of consumerism and how people judge overconsumption, and how underconsumption or overconsumption is like prized as morally good or bad by other people, that sort of thing. I also put in a little twist for her, which I really like, because I knew that she had some sort of secret. I just couldn't kind of put together what I wanted the secret to be, and I figured it out, and I really like it. It is horrific but I like it, and it fits with the theme so well. It's so good. So I'm really happy about that. But yeah, still kind of like trucking along with it. I do feel like at some point I was like, I gotta edge out what this plot is gonna be really, and I feel like I'm struggling. I feel like I need to read like some horror novels like in a row, get to reading some of those, because I'm like, what are the plots in other horror novels? I don't know. I know that I've written horror novels, but suddenly I'm like, I don't know what anything is. Like, I don't know how books work, and so I think it's just because I'm doing a different sort of writing process, and usually I front load. I think about plot like so far ahead of time, and now I'm kind of doing this more free-flowing discovery type situation. But yeah, it's still interesting, and I'm still enjoying the process, and this is kind of like, to me, the whole thing of like, you know, kind of reinventing myself as an author and like pushing myself and trying to do new different things. Like, it's going to be a different sort of process, a different sort of thinking pattern. It might take me a little bit longer to put things together than I might have before. And I'm really just trying to accept and embrace that, because that's so much what I want this book to be as its own project. I want to feel like I am doing something new with my process. And so, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now. But yeah, I'm excited. I am back home for a week, and then I will be in Toronto for a week. And so, yeah, I'm trying to like get locked back into SlugBook and like a bit of routine for this week before I'm traveling again. Hello. Usually I do not film stuff like this at night because lighting is not so great. So yeah, I don't usually film at this time, but I guess there was like a thing, it was on my mind, and I like thought about, oh, I'll just like put it together with my next update, but then it didn't really seem to kind of fit. And so I felt like I should just do it at its own little portion, especially because I'm already pondering about it. But anyway, this is like, I suppose, a submission update for the couples retreat. So sort of an interesting situation. But I am going to be doing an R&R. And this is technically an R&R that was posed very early on in the process. But we were so early on in the process that it felt like, I don't really want to do this right now. Like maybe someone will want to buy it in its current form. And I mean, at this point, we're over 6 months in, and I mean, things are looking different. Things are looking different. And so I was like, you know what? My agent was like, what do you think about revisiting this, doing this? And I was like, you know what? I'll do it. Let's do the R&R. And I think part of me was reluctant to do it. I think because really I had already kind of set aside this chapter and this book in my mind. And I think being like, okay, I'm gonna do the R&R, it was kind of just like, oh, I have to try again. And I think I don't know, I felt sort of back and forth about it. I was like, oh, I should just do it because why not at least like try. And I admit that I feel like I had a very like, let me just plow through this and get it done and send it back out sort of attitude towards it. And I think just because of that mindset of like giving up and kind of being like, this hasn't worked out and I don't see this continuing to work out. And this is a project that I have reworked so many times. I've, sort of done a full rewrite, and done significant sort of like writing and shifts and edits. And I was just kind of like, even with notes, I was like, I don't know that this is gonna make this better. Like, I don't know that this is going to be what works for someone. And then the other day, I came around on it. And I do feel like I have to give props to SlugBook and giving myself time to kind of write something with a very hands-off sort of pressure, to just do these kind of like random interconnected scenes, and discover a story and like try a new writing process and really feel like I was pushing myself and challenging myself and just like doing something new. And the freshness of that, I feel like I think it really shifted something in my head. Not that I started thinking of the couples retreat as like, now I think you're a success. Which, like, success and failure, these are so subjective words, because yeah. And so in thinking about that, I went back and I like read the first kind of couple chapters of the couples retreat, and I was really reminded of why I felt it was so good, and what I thought was so good about it. And I kind of had this moment of like that reminder of the subjectiveness of publishing, because I think, you know, I'd had so much time away from it. And when you have rejection upon rejection, like literally, I think the day, was it the day of? No, it was like a day before my agent had talked to me about like setting up a meeting, got a rejection. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, why? Yeah, and it was just, it was a tough time. But since then, since like deciding to do the R&R, I feel like I've started having fresh ideas of like other things I can do. And I think perhaps at this point I'm like planning to do much more than was originally set out. And I really went back and forth on it. I was like, I should just do exactly the edits. I was like, don't try and reinvent the wheel. But I feel like there's a part of me that can't help but feel like this is an opportunity for me to improve upon the work. Because I think if I'm honest with myself, even I feel like I didn't feel the level of confidence going out with it that I have felt with other books. And I know that Delicious Monsters is my little precious baby, but when we put Delicious Monsters on sub, and it was exclusive sub, so it's a different thing, because it went directly to my publisher I'd already worked with. And in this case, I've never worked with an adult publisher, and so it had to go out to people I'd never worked with. And so that was a different situation. But I just like, there was a very distinct feeling that Delicious Monsters was at a very high quality level for my level of like artistry and like being an author. And I feel like I didn't have the same confidence with The Couples Retreat. And part of that could just be, you know, it's an adult book, and I mean, I'd worked on it for so long. But I don't know, I kind of, I can't help but wonder, in, you know, sort of feedback, that sort of thing, where I these are things, I don't know, does this matter to, this is the sort of thing where people are like, don't say stuff about submission. No, there are things that I'm like, at this stage in my career, I'm like, does this actually matter? But yeah, you know, some of the feedback has been kind of, you know, being tugged in by that premise and losing something along the way. And I can't help but think of what is kind of being lost along the way. And I think it's one of those things where if I disagreed with it, it would be one thing. But I'm sitting and I'm thinking and I'm ruminating, and I don't know, I feel like maybe I do agree. Maybe I do feel like something is kind of lost towards that middle bit. And I feel like there's so much of it and there's so much strength. And I think in my mind, I was like, just buy it and help me. But that's just not something that's happening. And so I will be doing the R&R. So I'm gonna start working on that. I don't have any sort of deadline, so I don't know how long it's gonna take. But I am gonna be working on that, and I do think I am going to go beyond just the sort of notes given. I do think that I want to transform the story. I want to not have that feeling when I send it out again. When I send the book out again, I want to feel like I want to have the level of confidence that I had putting Delicious Monsters onto submission. And I think, would it be a wonderful world where you like looked at my other books and thought, okay, something's sort of not working for me at this part, but I'm willing to like just take it on anyway, and I'll just help her with it. That would be amazing. Of course, that would be amazing, but that's not really the circumstances in which I find myself. And yeah, so I think I was also thinking, I was like, do I even say anything about this? I think part of me wanted to just like do the R&R, just like not talk about it. And I think part of that is like, I do think there is a part of me that's very afraid of becoming reinvested in this project, just to have it not work out again, because that's rough and it sucks. And yeah, I mean, it is. It really sucks. And I think that's also why I felt at this level of like, I'm just going to do the, I was like, I'm just going to address exactly what is there. I'm not going to try and rework the wheel and do all this different stuff so that it becomes what I think it should be at this point. I'm not really sure if I'm explaining this well, but essentially it was honestly is the difference between doing the bare minimum and going above and beyond. And I think I really started with the mindset of like, just do the bare minimum and send it back and see what happens, because you don't want to invest all of this and just to be let down again. So just do the bare minimum and see how things go, move on, whatever. And I just don't think that I as a person can do that. And certainly not at this point. And I think working on the slug book has really kind of made me feel more invigorated about my work and about my ideas, and I think I've regained some confidence in myself as a writer, particularly with working on adult works and books. And I think I feel like I've come around to feeling like I have to be at the level, at a peak level. When I send this back out, I have to believe in it. I think that's just, that's all that walking around. When I send this out again, I have to believe in it. And I think even though I had my reservations at the beginning, even though I wasn't as confident as I was with Delicious Monsters, I believed in it and I believed that it would sell. And doing this edit, I cannot do bare minimum, because bare minimum will not make me believe in this project, and I need that. And I think even if I do all of that stuff and it goes back out and it doesn't get picked up, because a revise and resubmit is not a guarantee of sell, it is here are some notes and work on it and send it back, and so yeah, it's not a guarantee, but I think it's a hard setback. This was a hard setback, career-wise. It was a blow, certainly a blow to the ego, and yeah, I think that's just kind of what I've been pondering on and what I've been thinking now. And I feel like this is a good chat, this is a good conversation, because that is 100% it. Is when I send this back out, I need to believe in it. And so I have to do whatever possible so that when I send it out, I believe in it. And so that's kind of the headspace that I'm in now. So yeah, I guess I'm gonna be working on multiple projects. I know I said I really wanted to concentrate on the Master Monster stuff and then just have one project on the side, but that's no longer the case, because yeah, I'm gonna be working on this revise and resubmit, and I will be getting back to the slug book. I am going to continue doing that. I ended up stopping to give myself a break, so I was gonna do 40,000 words of vignettes and I ended up stopping at 30,000, which I think is still good. It's just to give me a week off and a little bit of a break to get in the headspace. But that's been really good, and I can feel the benefit of having worked on that, and that's not something I'm kind of willing to set aside for the year, because I feel like it's really invigorated my writing practice, and I think it's so cool and like gross and weird and interesting and like thematically complicated and nuanced, and yeah, I think it's really good. And so certainly that's something I want to continue working on. So it's gonna be it's gonna be a bit more on the shuffle than I may have originally planned for, but I am willing to do that. I guess this chat this nighttime chat was really to say that yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's tough when there are setbacks. It's tough when you've kind of like set aside or like given up on a project, to then kind of like pull yourself back and like get remotivated to work on it. But I have some ideas. I have some things that are certainly percolating in my mind. I think certainly working on the slug book helped me kind of reframe the themes of the couples retreat and kind of think a little bit more about how I'm reflecting that in the story and in the setup of things. And yeah, and I think I certainly have more motivation to distinguish the book even more. I think because I keep watching like people go to like private islands and like have stuff go down, and I wonder if it's giving those vibes a little bit, and I want to distinguish that a little bit more. But yeah, so we'll see. So I'm working on that now. So I'm back to working on the couples retreat. Not in this vlog, but in the next one, I'm gonna get going on that and kind of share progress and updates and that sort of thing with you. So yeah, I mean, this is a different sub journey that I have been on this channel with my other things. I feel like I've had the privilege of having more sort of straightforward submission experiences, and this is kind of a tougher submission journey, but I do feel like I'm re-engaged in it, and I'm willing to put my everything into what is basically the last shot for this book, I think, to do this revision and see how that goes. But yeah, so that's about it. Thank you for joining me for this little nighttime confessional. Back from Toronto. I had a really great time. I feel like I got to do like a lot of author connecting on this trip, which was great. And I mean, it was a author a connecting sort of trip, but yeah, it was really great. So I went to Anthony Narada's book event at Queen Books, and for Skater Boy, it's his paperback launch, but they actually had hardcover, so I was like, oh yeah, I can buy hardcover. So I'm really excited about reading Skater Boy. If you recognize the title, I mean, there is a connection to the Avril Lavigne song, and yeah, it's about, you know, a sort of like punk boy falling for a ballet boy, and like a lot of like talk about, you know, I think kind of like what it means to feel like you have to fit into a certain mold of gayness, and kind of like finding ways to be yourself. And so I thought that was really cool. So I'm really excited about this one. And so yeah, me and Anthony have been mutuals online for a while, and have chit-chatted and that sort of thing. So it was really nice to get to see him in person. And there were also like other authors there, so that was really great to hang out with them. And so yeah, it was just like a fun time. Went and hung out at the event and like had some like drinks after, so that was really great. And then at OLA, I was able to say hi to a bunch of different authors as well, and hang out with the Simon & Schuster Canada team. It's sort of different from my US publisher. Like I have it
I've like met like a small amount of people from the US team in person for when I've like done US events. Like I've met some of the marketing people, but I really more often end up seeing the Canadian team because I am Canadian and they often end up arranging a lot of events and that sort of thing for me. So it was really great to say hi to them and meet some new faces too. And so that was really fantastic and just like a good time. Like they're super supportive over there, and so it's always kind of nice to get to go to an event and that sort of thing. And I appreciate it because I like low-key conned my way into this in that Scholastic invited me to do a signing for the anthology. I was in Today I Am, that's edited by J.L. Richardson, and so then I contacted SNS and I was like, hey, could I also do a signing with you? And they were like, yeah, and we'll like get Mastery of Monsters arcs, and they got that giant foam poster of Mastery of Monsters. I'm so excited about that. I couldn't bring it on the plane obviously, so I left it at my grandparents' house. So the next time we drive down to Toronto, I'll pick it up at that point, which will be at the latest in May. We're doing that like second Kingston trip in May, and then also we have a friend's wedding so in Toronto, so I was like, oh, okay, this is good to just like circuit around. But yeah, it was really great to kind of like hang out. I was able to see some like authors that I had met like briefly before and like have a little bit more time to say hi and introduce myself to a few new authors. So yeah, I did that signing for A Mastery of Monsters, which was great. It was wonderful to connect with librarians and teachers and like talk a little bit about the book and kind of pitch it a bit, because like, you know, you're giving away arcs for free, and so sometimes people are just kind of like looking and they're like, ah, that seems kind of like interesting. They might not be familiar with me as an author. They might not even know what the book is about. They just kind of like, they're like, oh, it's a cool cover and it's a fantasy, and they kind of wander over. And so I'm able to talk it up a little bit and talk about, you know, how I think this is so fun. It's such a fun book, and like dark academia, especially in Canadian settings. I push that it's set at Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario, because it's a Canadian setting for a fantasy, and also sharing that it's the start of a trilogy because people didn't necessarily know that it's part of a series, that sort of thing. And I was able to give it a little pitch, and so that was exciting. And all the art copies were gone. Like there were people that had come after and were like, are there still copies? And it was like, oh no, they're all gone. But it was great to do all of those signings. And then after that, I went to my Scholastic signing, and so I was signing with J.L. Richardson, who, as I said, edited the anthology, and I was also signing with Rosanna Fung, who is like a graphic novelist. I actually have one of Rosanna's, her graphic novel. It's called, let me see. This is Rosanna's graphic novel, age 16. So I did pick this one up and I'm really excited to read it. It's like 3 different timelines sort of thing. And Rosanna has a comic in the anthology. So it's really cool. Like JL put together such a cool collection. And it was nice because that's like a middle grade anthology. So it was nice to kind of do like a YA signing and then do a signing for the middle grade anthology and do that. So that was really great. And then afterwards we did a panel. So I was on a panel that Nadia Hon organized, basically, about talking about our lived experiences, and it's like a panel stacked with like Black Canadian authors, and so there were some familiar faces for me. Nadia, who I've met before, I think was in a previous vlog because I was in Hamilton and I went to an event that she was at. So there was that, and that was the first time we had met in person. And then Sara Raleigh, who I think has shown up a few different times in different vlogs, whose most recent book, The Queen's Spade, came out, which is like a historical revenge thriller, which is really cool. Yeah, she was on the panel too. And then some new faces who I hadn't connected with yet, and so that was really great to meet them and to do that panel. I thought it was a really good panel, just kind of like talking about our books and like how our lived experiences as like Black Canadians incorporate into the book. And so this was my first panel, getting to talk about A Mastery of Monsters like in depth and to talk about kind of the lived experiences that go into the novel. I chatted a lot about how like when I was in university, I kind of struggled with coming to have an understanding of my own blackness. I had spent quite a bit of my life being referred to as like a white person in a black person's skin, and that I feel like felt a little bit more prominent when I was at university, because it was such a large white population, whereas the high school I went to was I think quite a bit more multicultural. I find that now when I'm going to Queens, I think the landscape has changed. I think it is a lot more diverse in terms of student population than it was when I went, but when I went, it was, yeah, I mean, it's still PWI. It was just like exceedingly so, it felt, when I went to school. And yeah, kind of how I sort of pulled away opportunities from myself to connect with other Black students because I felt like I wasn't Black enough. And so in A Master of Monsters, I've kind of done something different in that I have surrounded the main character with Black characters and Black community, but different types of Black community. And so she's still kind of grappling with belonging and kind of figuring out where she fits, because sort of the high school group that she was with, after she kind of rebrands herself, so to speak, she loses that. She loses all of those friends and all of that community. And so she comes to university without any of that. And in fact, insists that she does not want that, and she's kind of thrust into community. But once she's there, she very much wants that, and she's trying to hold on to that. But at the same time, she's in a community that is perhaps not the best community. And so it's also about kind of questioning the spaces that you occupy and being critical of them. And in that one, I also put in a character that is in like a Black sort of like a Black social society as that sort of different foil. And I think it was in maybe my third year at university when there's a Black academic society, and I think it formed around that time. But yeah, I would have never gone because I had such a warped kind of experience with my own Blackness, which then I later got better at. Yeah, and so I talked about that and how that changed in the book and different things I had done. So it was really good to be able to have that conversation. I thought that was great. We also had a great turnout at the panel. Tons of people came, which was awesome. But yeah, and then otherwise I got to hang out with some friends that I haven't seen in a while. And yeah, it was just like a good time, like a pretty low-key visit. So I did some of those author things and some friend things. I usually, like, when I come to Toronto, I was like, I know I can't see everyone. So I kind of have to, unfortunately, cherry pick. And then of course I got to visit my grandparents a lot. And my mom's house, that was in Toronto, she recently sold that. And so it was kind of like I pouring one out for the house where I lived for a long time. You know, I was very, very fortunate and privileged that my mom basically set up that apartment for me. It was an unfinished space, and got that finished, so I could have a little apartment there. And yeah, I spent so much time there. I filmed YouTube videos there, in that house, actually, because I used to live in the upstairs with my mom. And then when the downstairs was finished, I moved down there. And so yeah, I did start my YouTube channel. No, I started my YouTube channel when I was here in Timmins, and then I went back to Toronto. No. What did I do? No, I did. Okay, I did start the YouTube channel when I was in Toronto. Yes, because I remember, because my Authortube newbie tag and all of those videos were taken in like the upstairs of my mom's house, because that's where I was living. And then COVID hit, and then I went back to Timmins. Oh yeah, it's a whole thing. But yeah, so I started my YouTube channel there, but that was kind of the end of that. I did do some like marketing promo things. I've been putting together a plan for A Mastery of Monsters, like a really solid plan for some promotional things. I'm not gonna do a pre-order giveaway. I'm not gonna do a pre-order campaign thing, but I am going to do like a it's not gonna be pre-order, it's gonna be library request. I'm gonna do a library request giveaway, essentially. So I'm gonna put together some like prize pack things, and I'm going to do I'm planning to set it international. So international, as long as you request from your library, submit that, you'll be entered into a giveaway. And then from the giveaway, I will give away little prize pack things. I'm thinking of doing like signed final copies. So I'll do it pre-publication to the book and then send out the prizes once I have my final copies. And so and then it's kind of nice because then you're doing a library request, so presumably you may not have purchase the book or have a copy coming to you, and then you can kind of win the giveaway. And I'm planning some like cool sort of swag items, some things that once again will require me to do some labor, but not the amount of labor that was involved in like screen printing a shirt for the Tender Beast stuff. It's gonna be a little bit more low-key. I'm also reaching out to some artists because I think I want like a custom design for the bookmark, and then I also have another little like thing in store. Yeah, so I'm excited about that. But otherwise, that's kind of everything for this month. And yeah, come February, I will be working on the Couples Retreat rewrite. I will be working on that kind of like R&R, and I assume that I'm gonna get my edits back for the second Mastery of Monsters book, so I'm gonna be doing that at the same time. I'm gonna be pulling a little bit of double duty. We'll see how that goes. I'm gonna try and make sure that I'm not kind of burning myself out or overburdening myself, and like making sure that I'm getting the time with each project so that each is the way it should be, but they're both at this point in time like very important for me to focus on. And so yeah, that's kind of what I've got going on, and I will stop talking now. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe, and thank you so much for watching. Bye.